Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Lead with Love podcast with Dr. Q, where we talk about love, leadership, and real life lessons that actually matter. Remember, if you are here today, it is not by accident. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. So, are y'all ready? Let's jump in. So last week, I told you all about Brandy Braden, and I told you how one student literally almost ended my complete career, and how taking the time to truly listen to her changed not just her life, but mine. It changed both of our lives forever. And if you missed that episode, please go back and listen to it. Seriously, like it is going to shift something in you. But today, I want to go a little step further because here's what I've noticed in all of my years of coaching and developing leaders, that most people hear a powerful story, they feel inspired, and then what do? Go back to doing the exact same thing that they were doing before. And you all, this is too important to not get this right. So today is not about why you should listen. We covered that. Today is more about the how. How do you actually build listening into the way that you lead people? Not as a one moment, one off correction, but literally a system, a habit, and a practice that you can count on, not just for you, but for your people. Because here's the truth: listening once doesn't make you a good listener. Listening consistently, intentionally. Now that's what changes your culture, and that is what changes people's lives. According to a study on active listening, did you know that 65% of employees feel their managers don't listen to them effectively? Maybe listen, but effectively. And yet, Harvard Business Review found that leaders who are perceived as good listeners are rated 37% more effective in their roles. And the gap between those two numbers are what? It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity that is sitting right in front of you today to listen. And by the end of today's episode, you are going to have 3 practical systems here in episode 12 that you can put into place this week to make listening a consistent, predictable part of how you lead. Not just when it's convenient, but as a real commitment, y'all, to the people that you serve every single day in your teams, in your businesses, in your homes. The T, take time to listen, from the Just Care framework, and it's straight from the book. We're going to make it actionable today. So if you haven't gotten your copy, make sure you get yours. All right, so it's not a moment, it's a system. So let me be honest about something, because I'm always going to be honest with y'all. Dr. Q going to tell the truth. I used to think that I was a good listener because I had kind of an open door policy. People could come in. Even with my kids, I asked, do you want to talk about anything? And I would tell my staff even, listen, the door is open, you can come in. But I really meant that. But here's what I think I failed to understand: that an open door isn't a listening system. It's an invitation. And the people who most need to be heard are often the ones that are least likely to walk through that door, that open door. Yeah, on their own. The quiet ones, the ones who've been burnt before. You know those? The ones who don't believe that anyone actually wants to hear what they have to say. So what I had to do is I had to stop waiting for people to come to me. And I started creating very intentional structures that made listening a guaranteed experience for every single person that I led. And was that easy? No, it wasn't. And that shift from being passively available to being actively available with structured listening, it changed everything when I led on my campus. And so that's what I want for you, and not just a good intention, but an actual system that you can put in place to ensure that the people that you care the most about, that they feel heard. Okay, so let's kind of talk about some practices. There's 3 practices that I used as a principal and now even as a coach, that I as a coach, and I coach leaders to actually implement across education, corporate, nonprofit spaces. It doesn't really matter where you lead, even in your home. Practice number 1, what I do is this system, all about you, all about me, all about us. And this is just basically a one-on-one check-in structure that I got from one of my old leaders that developed. We use consistently with every direct report. It's simple, it's predictable, and y'all, it works. And here's how it goes. Essentially, all you do is you schedule your one-on-one meetings. And these are people that you want to build capacity in, the people that matter. And you do it bi-weekly, monthly, maybe depending on your team size. But the meeting has 3 parts to it. Very simple structure. The first 15 minutes belongs entirely to them. They can talk about anything they want, a challenge they're facing, something that they're celebrating, a frustration, a fear, an idea, professional, personal. You only have one job. And that one job in those 15 minutes is to listen, not to fix it, not to advise and give suggestions, not to redirect, just receive. And this communicates one very powerful thing, that you matter and your voice matters. It's simple. Now, the next 10 minutes are mine, and I get to share observations. I get feedback. I kind of address anything from my agenda. And here's the key, because they felt heard first, they're actually opening to receiving what I have to say. You earn the right to be heard by first doing the listening. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. And then the final Stephen Covey. In the final 10 minutes are ours. Together we identify next steps, we clarify supports needed, and align on what comes next, or even solve problems together. Listen, schedule it. Protect it like it's sacred, because it is. To those that I coach, don't forget this. Practice number 2, work the room. This one is about visibility. Every single morning as a principal, my administrative team and we divided our staff list, and we visited literally every single classroom, every office, every corner of the building, just to say hi, to ask how people were doing, to offer support. I called it a heart check, touch point. It took maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and it did more for our culture than any professional development session that I've ever ran. Y'all, it's in the book. Get your book. Here's why it works. When people see you consistently, they start to believe that you actually care about them. You actually care what's happening in their world, in their classroom. And when they believe that you care, they start to talk. Yep. They surface things that would have stayed very buried. They flag problems before they become crisis, and they share wins that would have never maybe made it to your inbox. Visibility is not about just monitoring. No, it's about the relationship. And relationship, y'all, is where listening begins. I talk about that in my other book, The Art of Giving a Shh. Make sure you get that copy too. Anyway, practice number 3, structured stakeholder feedback. You cannot personally listen to everybody all the time. I'm clear on that. And that is a complete reality. So you also have to identify structures that give people voice, even when you're not in the room. Anonymous surveys are one of the most powerful and underused tools in leadership. As a teacher, I remember I surveyed my students at the end of every semester. Simple questions like, how is it going? What would make it better? Or what do you need more of? And those answers, they transformed my teaching every single year. because I listened to them. Maybe I didn't know who was saying it, but their voice mattered. And as a principal, I did the same thing with my staff. And yes, it was sometimes very uncomfortable to hear some of those truths. Yes, I read things that were very hard to hear, but that discomfort was information, and information that I needed to get better for the people that I serve. But the hardest part of a feedback survey is not writing the questions. The hardest part is y'all already know what I'm going to say. Your ego. It's being willing to hear that something isn't working, being willing to be wrong, being willing to adjust. And here's what I know. Leaders who regularly ask for feedback and act on it build the kind of trust that no money can buy. Like money can't buy peace. Money can't buy that kind of trust. And here's what I need you all to sit with today. You can say you have an open door. You can say people can come to you anytime they want. You can believe in your heart that you are accessible and available. But if you do not have a system, a consistent, predictable, protected structure for listening, then for most of your people, most of the time, you are not being heard from, and they are not being heard. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Because intention without structure is just a wish, and your people deserve more than a wish. They deserve a leader who not just shows up for them, but shows up for them on purpose. If it isn't a system for it, it doesn't exist. Like I always used to say, what's the system for this? Because if it's no system, one, as leaders, you can't be the system. Okay. So let me name the real obstacles though, because they're going to show up. They're not going to, you're not going to just listen and it's going to go all peachy. It's not going to be all peachy keen. Is that how you say it? I think so. Time. You're going to be looking at your calendar and you're going to tell yourself, Dr. Q, there is no space for this. I don't have time to be doing one-on-ones. But here's what I found. Leaders who invest 30 minutes a week in structured listening save hours of time they would have had to spend managing conflict, miscommunication, and low morale that could have been prevented proactively if you had just scheduled the time. Listening is not a time cost. It is actually, listen, a time investment. Next is your ego. What you hear is what you hear is gonna challenge you. Someone's gonna say something that doesn't match how you see yourself as a leader, and your instinct is gonna be to defend, to explain, to kind of push back. Don't. Just not in that moment. Just receive it. Just kind of sit with it. You can process it better. But in the moment of listening, your only job is to hear. My children have done that for me. They have told me some real hard things, but I asked because I care. But it was hard. The next challenge is going to be fear. You might be afraid that if you ask people, that they're going to tell you something that you don't know how to fix. And that's okay, because remember, I told you, you don't have to fix everything, nor as a leader do you have to know all the answers. Sometimes people just need to know that they were heard. Say this, you know what? Thank you for telling me. And I'm going to think about what you shared with me. That's it. That's it. John Gordon, my guy, he writes in the best book, The Energy Bus. Y'all get that book if you haven't read it. He says that love means listening to your passengers. I told y'all that last week. Not just when it's convenient, not just when you're in the mood, but as a commitment to the people that you care for and that's in your care. And that is what leading with love looks like, y'all. That's what it looks like in practice. Lead with love is not gushy. Remember, it's actions. It's what you do. So here's your assignment this week. Yay. And I want you to start before this week is out. Pick one of the 3 practices from today and implement it. If you choose to do all about you, all about me, all about us, schedule 3 check-ins before Friday. Put them on your calendar right now. Sunday's the best day to do it. Don't wait. If you choose to work the room, commit to 30 minutes every single morning this week, where your only goal is to be present, to be accessible in your people's spaces, not your space. Get out of those offices. If you choose to do a feedback survey, draft your 5 questions tonight. Keep it simple, send it by the end of the week, and commit to sharing what you learn with your team. Y'all, I believe in you. You can do this. One practice this week. That's the challenge. Y'all, you got this. Lead with love. It's a movement. And before I let you all go, again, Lead with Love, 8 Heart-Centered Strategies for Exceptional Leadership. It's available online. The Audible is coming soon. And chapter 4 is what gives you the full take time to listen framework, including all 5 core listening practices and everything that you need to build listening into your leadership culture. Not for a good time, but for a long time. Okay? Next week in our Q1 finality. I cannot believe that it is already over Q1. Y'all know I'm not holding back. And we're going to look at the full Just Care framework as one integrated system. I've got data that is going to stop you in your tracks. And I have some very hard punches ready that I think may shake some of you up. And if in the best possible way, though, and you don't want to miss it. I cannot believe Q1 is over. All right, y'all. Brandy Brayton. I talked about her last week. She didn't need me to have the right answers. She needed me to stop talking long enough to hear her story. And when I finally did that, everything changed for both of us. Your people are carrying stories. They're carrying ideas. They're carrying frustrations and gifts that you have not heard yet. Not because they don't want to share them, but because no one has built them a space where they know that they will be heard. Build a space. Create the structure. Show up consistently. That is what it means to take time to listen. I want to thank you all for being here and listening. Y'all, I really appreciate that you joined me on this podcast. And listen, if today's message spoke to you, y'all know what I want you to do. Share it with a leader like who needs a listening system and not just a good intention. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, and you do not want to miss episode 13 next week, our Q1 finale. All right, you all remember, leading with love is not what? You got it. It is not a one-time decision. It is a daily choice. Love is a daily choice, even when it's uncomfortable. All right, y'all. Until next time, lead with love.